Hi, everyone. I'm Nate, and welcome to A New Perspective, a place for young people, activists, entrepreneurs, and artists to share their unique and powerful stories and perspectives. Today, I'm joined by Ella. Ella, do you want to tell us a couple things about yourself?
Yes, hello guys. So, as you said, my name is Ella, and I'm a huge activist and just big in support of stuff for like the environment. That's something I've become very passionate about, and just mental health and human rights and stuff is something I've started to kind of affiliate myself with and educate people and others on.
So, with everything going on, like in California, with like the fires and everything, what would you like to see happen as far as like climate change, either like in policy or just like in practice, like things people can do throughout their day to make their impact on the environment a little bit less?
Yeah, I think people first need to educate themselves on it and just like understand that this is more, I think, than like a political thing because that's what a lot of people see it as. It's more than that. So I think it starts with like educating yourself and understanding like cars that like electric cars are huge and like helping with pollution and like cleaning up after yourself. Like one of the fires was just like from a gender reveal party. Like it's human cause. This is all because of what we're doing. I think it becomes you need to be more conscious of like what you're doing. So like sustainability stuff like that is something people need to start like being a part of. It's
I think I think it's really funny too, the whole like gender reveal thing too,
yeah.
because that's kind of just a better metaphor for a lot of the climate change stuff, you know? A lot of our impacts on the environment are things that are extra. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they're not things that are required. So when you talk
Not
about
necessary, absolutely.
exactly. So when you talk about sustainability, you know, a lot of it is just looking at ourselves, looking at the things we do in our day to day, that maybe we can cut this out, or you know what,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I can start recycling, or maybe I can
Exactly.
start composting, or you know what, the plastic bag that comes when I buy my lettuce every time I go to the grocery store, maybe I should just start growing my own lettuce, you
Yeah, like
know?
it starts with just like a little, like the little small changes is what's gonna like help in the long run. Like same with like obviously like COVID sucks totally like because you know what I mean. Life is totally different, new normal. But like one thing too is like going to the beach and stuff. Like the beach is so much cleaner. Like the water in
Hmm.
like Newport and like Lagoon is always the water's always clear, but like it is so clear. That's like one thing. It's just like us kind of like not I mean not being in the beach obviously had like a big part of it, but like there was way less trash like being put into the ocean. Like that just shows like that little change had like a huge impact on like the environment.
Oh,
It's
and
like so amazing to see that.
oh yeah, I don't know if you saw, but in the first like 2 or 3 months of lockdown, it was like pictures being posted of all these different places around the
Yeah,
world.
like in LA and stuff.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and I think one of the really interesting things was in Venice, you know, like the Venice canals were like clear, and that fish were
Yeah.
actually going through the canals for the first time in like I believe hundreds of years. And that's crazy just to see. I mean, I think we're all cognitive enough to know that like humans and us moving all the time and us doing all the things that makes you know, humanity go forward, you know, it has an impact on the environment,
Yeah.
on wildlife. But to see it that way, where it was just like so up in our face, where it's like, look, you all just calmed down for 3 months and
And
the
like
world stopped hurting. Like it,
yeah,
you
the
know,
impacts were great just from like that little change. Like the one thing too that makes me sad because like obviously we live in like a more suburban type area. Like
hmm
the amount of houses and stuff that I see, like oh my god, there's like some sort of like new construction going on all the time. Like that makes me sad too. Just like the animals and stuff, like that's their home. That's what it's just like little things like that. Just becoming aware, I think would make a difference. The environment, like the inhabitants in the environment. You know what I mean?
hmm Well, I also think because like yeah, like you said, we live in the Inland Empire, you
Mm-hmm.
know, so a lot of it was originally a desert, and just to see
Exactly.
people like come through and like terraform it and stuff, that's why I love when I see the more desert landscaping on some houses, you know, because you like this isn't the right climate for
For these
that,
animals, yeah.
you know, and it's like or it's even it's not the right climate to sustain grass. It's not the right climate to have, you know, as much as I love gardens and flower beds and everything, like that's so much water that this climate isn't used to.
Mm-hmm.
It's different than going up north and being like, well, I have all this grass because
Yeah, grass is just more abundant. Like that's just something that like works up there. Here it's like you water for hours just get like a little patch of green grass. You know what I mean? Like even to like where I live, like there's coyotes all over. We used to have a lemon grove down the street. So like now you see them running all over, but it's because like they have no home anymore. And I think that's like sad. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, you know, because I live in a part of Fontana where it's still getting super developed, like you
Oh
said, with
yeah,
like the
yeah.
housing getting
Mhm.
built up, or like these new like business kind of warehouse looking infrastructures popping up too. And it is kind of crazy because you see it go by, you know, like there was a lot when I first moved in, you know, because we moved about a year ago. So there was this lot where it was just like empty grass and dirt, and you know, I'm sure a lot of coyotes, a lot of like squirrels and all that kind of stuff lived there. And to see that it's now like almost completely built houses, you know, and like, yeah, it's just like this like 2-3 acres maybe, but just think about like,
It's sad.
or yeah, and like our parents, you know, because they're always like, oh, you know, the freeway wasn't there when we were born, or you know, like this wasn't there when we were born. So to just think, you know, in the past 30 years, how much has changed, how much has been built, like, and the impact that that's got to have on all the animals and stuff.
Well, yeah, we kind of like took their home. Like they were there
Mhm.
first. That's why I just almost like upsets me because it's like I like you see the stuff I post on like my Instagram and like trying to show people. I don't know how many people listen to it or not. Like that's not the point. But it's just like seeing those like little things, just like even just like you know what I mean, like having like a space in your backyard for like animals to be, or like it's like this was their home, so it's like allow them to have a home still.
Oh yeah, and that's like I said, one of my best friends. They live up in like Arrowhead, and I love cities and communities that are like that, where there is a lot of houses, there's a lot of, you know, businesses, but there's still very nature.
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
a lot of space for nature.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that gets challenging, you know, just one living in California because there's so many of us.
Everybody's on top of each other. Yeah.
Exactly, like especially in Southern California, you know, it's very dense, it's very populated, very suburban, like you said, you know.
Oh yeah.
But then, you know, to kind of bring it back to like you said, like COVID, you know, having everyone kind of on top of each other like that really showed, especially when you look at like LA and New York and stuff, because it's like, how are they supposed to avoid each other
Yeah, it's
when there's people on every side of them? You know?
exactly, yeah. Well, that's like the one thing, like living in California, like living in New York, those are like the most like highly populated states like out there, like especially in LA, like you're on top of everyone like everywhere you go. And so that's just like the one thing I think it's just like sad and like interesting to watch too, is just like you watch like the stuff that's like posted, stats, like I mean believe what you want when it comes to that stuff, but like it's crazy to just to see the difference in stuff in like different places, like in LA, like the deaths, all that stuff is like I can't even I can't even wrap my head around that. It's crazy.
Yeah. The one thing I will say though that is positive that came out of COVID is I think people now are a lot more cognitive about what they do in a day.
Oh yeah, you learn like even my mom said like we learned so much about ourselves. Like there's so much that's crap and stuff like that you just face, like being stuck inside, like you know, like you were a senior, like you totally got the end of the year robbed. Like I'm going to my senior year, like I don't even have it. You know what I mean? Like it totally sucks. But then like when I look back at the like environment part, like that was super good. Like mud, like the earth got a break, and like too they were talking about stuff that was gonna happen to like the reefs and stuff. Like that's still apparent, but it's way less now because like the ocean got a break, the air got a break. But too like I learned a lot about myself that I liked and didn't like. But it was a good time to like work on it. Like I was on a roll, I was working out and stuff. Like that was something I've never like allowed myself to do. Like I was finally able to like work on my physical, mental health, which I think is something like we have to keep in mind. Like we all grew a lot, like whether we like realize that or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was actually something we brought up in the last episode too, was the fact that growth is something that we have to accept and we shouldn't push away, you know, and it doesn't have to be a linear thing too, you know, like you can grow and you know what, you might take a few steps back, but then you take another couple steps forward.
Yeah, it's the
and
whole that's the process.
right, and I think it's really interesting that you brought up, you know, the physical and mental health side of things, because I think a lot of people sometimes don't understand how hand in hand those things go, you know, like there is direct connections between how much you exercise and getting your heart rate up to how you are doing mentally, you know, and that doesn't even have to do with like your body image as much as it just has to do with like the chemistry of what's going on in your body when you exercise.
Exactly. Like that's the one thing, like I told you, like mental health is something that's extremely like important to me, because that's just something I like. Just working on my mental health is something I've dealt with my whole life. Just seeing that like COVID stuff like gives you a break. Like mental health is the reason you're gonna be healthy. Like no matter like what you look on the outside, like working out, like you feel good when you work out, right? Like you feel, I mean, you may feel sore after, but like you feel good because like you did something, like you started making change to your body that's like gonna affect you like mentally as well, because it's just like rewarding, you know what I mean? Like that everything affects everything, you know?
Oh yeah. one of my favorite things I ever heard about like fitness and how it relates to like your overall health, like mentally and everything, was from Will Smith. He was doing an interview and he said, you know, everything you do for yourself, whether it be, you know, not eating a piece of pizza or making sure you do your extra 50 push-ups a day, it's all a practice of self-love, you know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because it's like you gotta love yourself enough in that moment to be like, you know what, man, like I love myself, so like this piece of pizza right now, like it's not worth it, you know? Like I know that I'll really enjoy this piece of pizza now, but then I'm gonna feel guilty about myself later, you know? So not being self-sabotaging, which is something that, like personally for me, I have to like watch out for all the time because I've noticed I'm so self-sabotaging.
Yeah. Oh my God, me too.
Like I don't know, like I'm just a little weird like this, but like I've never really liked like butter or like, you know, like really heavy feeling foods. So I mean I usually throughout the week like I eat super clean, like super good. I'm like really on top of my exercise. Like hashtag thanks for COVID for that, because like
Yeah.
really just found
Good for
like
you.
yeah, I found like an exercise routine that works for me. And you know, I'm like I might fall off of it for like a couple days here and there, but I think being mostly consistent is the best thing people can do with
Everything
their fitness.
is like good in moderation and stuff. Like
Yeah.
if you're consistent, like you'll feel good about it. That's like one thing I've struggled with so much. Like beginning of COVID and stuff, like, oh my God. Like I was on that shit. Like I was working out at least 5 days a week, eating really clean and stuff. Like, and the thing is, like, I saw those results. Like I'm young, so like they're a little bit, they come quicker, right? But now that I've started like working and stuff, like I've been working for a while, like I'm exhausted. So like I don't have the motivation to want to do it. But also like mentally, like I've struggled with, because I beat myself up a little bit, like because when I come home, like I don't want to like sit and make like a good meal. Like I just want to eat like cookies or like whatever's just there, you know what I mean?
Right. And that's how I've always, like, going back to what I was saying, like, about me being self-sabotaging, it's like, on my days off, like, I'm always with my friends. You know, we're always, like, we're
Doing
always, like,
something,
yeah, like, we're always, like, hanging out. We're always, like, playing video games. And we have, like, the junk food, you know, we get the McDonald's. We do, like, you know, and it's always, like, I feel so guilty the next day.
Exactly, gosh.
But I think one of the things that I've been really working on about myself is not beat myself up in those moments.
Yeah.
You know, to just be like, all right, you know, make sure that like the next 2-3 days,
Or good.
you know, yeah, like you make sure you're eating really clean, so then it like kind of cancels itself out, you know.
Oh yeah.
So that's like, it's not really like beating myself up about it, but just being like, okay, this happened, you know.
You acknowledge it and then you work on it.
And then just be like, all right, you know, time to do some damage control. And I think that's like how more people should kind of see it, you know, like indulgence is okay
Yeah.
as long as you recognize it's indulgence, and then just, you know, hold yourself accountable for to make up for it.
Exactly, yeah.
You know?
It's like keeping yourself in check. That's like the same thing. Like I feel guilty and stuff when I eat. Like, you know, I have In-N-Out all the time. Like that's my favorite thing to eat. So it's like that I've been trying to work on. Like I'm gonna start water polo and stuff soon. So like I got on the pool yesterday for the first time in like I don't know how long. Like so I was do that and stuff. Like I had like a good meal. Like I let myself have like a little cookie. I was like rewarding and stuff. Like because all of COVID and stuff, like my life has just been like finding the balance. Like I love eating sweets, right? So it's like I always feel like bad when I do that stuff, and like that's one thing too. Like learning, like understanding, like self-image, self-love, like self-image. It doesn't matter. Like you know what I mean? It's like how you feel on the inside. Of course, like you want to look good on the outside. Like I 100% get that in the same way. But like I've tried to like let that go a little bit. But it's like honestly, like at least like because this is I know this is all over the place, but it's like so like this period of my life is such a growth period. Like learning all this stuff, it's like
Yeah. No, I get you 100%. And I think it's really interesting too, because like the water polo community, especially, you know, because a lot of people focus a lot on like women's body image and stuff, which is definitely super important. But like I feel like I've talked to a lot of guys too, especially like in the water polo community too, that are a little bit on the bigger side, you know, like myself. And it's like it's tough. Like when you're surrounded by these like other
my
guys
gosh,
who are
yeah.
doing the exact same workouts as you, doing these exact same things as you, and they're like, you know, they're shredded, and you look at yourself, you're like, oh, I got a little gut. You're like,
yeah. Oh
it
my
gets in your
gosh.
head.
It's hard not to compare yourself to other people.
Oh, it's super
because,
hard.
like, yeah, water polo I think is like a great example because we're all like half naked, right? Like we're in swimsuits.
Yeah.
So like I see girls and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, like what the heck? Like you know, like I am like my physique is okay. Like it's like I've definitely like gained weight and stuff. Like I think this is like the lowest I've felt, which is like sad to say, but like that's just something I work on, right? Like I'm working out, like work on change, blah blah blah.
But like it's hard not to compare yourself to other people. Like everybody's body type is different. But I
Mhm.
think that's like teens, like not even teens, like younger, like everybody is so like I think quick to judge too, just like that's like insecurity. Like one thing I've been working on, like there's no like room for judgment. Like that's not your place. But like that's one thing too I think is important, just like why like compare yourself to other people? Like everybody's their own person, body types are different, health like you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is super like really opened up my eyes to that too is like personally for me, like, you know, I swam, did water polo, like you know from being
Yeah,
in the
I've done
same
it, yeah.
position, but like in the summer, like how crazy it gets, where it was like, you know, weightlifting 2 hours in the
It's
morning,
exhausting.
swimming at night, games in the middle of the day, blah 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 blah, and like I can confidently say that, like, you know what, like, yeah, like I might not be in like as good a shape as I was then, but I'm definitely like I feel more connected to my body now. And
Exactly,
like
that's huge.
and also for me too, like I look in the mirror now and I'm like, you know, I might have lost like some muscle in these areas, but I've been working on like these other areas of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I do a little bit more cardio, I eat better now. And like I can confidently say, like, for me, like where my body's at is a place where I'm like super happy with,
Oh,
you
good
know?
for you, yeah.
You know, cuz it's like, yeah, you know, I might wish that like my little 2 pack line wasn't there just only in the morning, but it was there for the rest of the
Yeah.
day. But you know, just the fact that I'm seeing that and I'm like, oh,
Well,
you know what,
yeah.
that's cool.
I
You
think
know?
once you start to like fully like accept love yourself, like I think that's like when you really see the change, because it's like once you become like happy with yourself, then like I think it kind of just only goes up from there. Like I think one
Mhm.
thing like I've seen with like my girlfriends like especially like struggle with, like this is not all boys, but I think like there's a very high standard, like ideal body type. Like, God, I don't know. Like a while ago, it was like the hourglass, right? Like I used to be made fun of growing up for like by boys how I looked and stuff. Like that's like something I still deal with. Like it made me super insecure, and like that's why like working out and like looking good. Like it shouldn't be like the top of my list, but it's one of the things that's up there. Like I'm trying not to let it be, but it's like not letting others' opinions like affect your own for yourself. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
I think one of the things. Okay, so like first, I do want to say like the body type thing is like so interesting to me because I don't know if you've seen it. There's a YouTube channel. I forget what their name is, but they do like beauty standards throughout time
Oh
for
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
different
Like all
regions.
the different years and stuff. Uh huh.
Yeah, so it's like American like beauty standards throughout time, and it is so like interesting to see how that's changed,
Oh, it's so
and
different.
also kind of like how crazy like those things aren't things that you could get. Like you know, it's like something that you're born with. It was all like super
Yeah, there's certain
genetically.
things you just can't
Yeah,
change.
like, you know, like,
Mhm.
you know, if you don't have like as a guy, you know, like if you're born with like certain proportions, like that's how it's gonna be,
Yeah,
mate. Or
it's
like,
huge on genetics and stuff
oh
too.
yeah, and
Like,
like this is the same thing with women, you know. And I
mhm.
think with and I can't remember if we were talking about this in the last podcast or not, but with TikTok, with social media, with Instagram, with, you know, but I said, you know, you used to see like people like Arnold Schwarzenegger in a
Mhm.
movie, and it was like the exception because there was like six buff people that were like readily
Yeah.
available to see, or there was like four or five like super well known female supermodels that girls could look up to.
Yeah.
But now with like social media and everything, you know, there's limitless ones because
Oh my
even though
gosh.
they're these like gorgeous people, and that's what they are, you know, and I don't think you should discredit people for that. You know, like I
Absolutely
don't think
agree.
people who are like beautiful or who are really fit or, you know, are like these ideal
Yeah, you don't have to
beauty
be
standards. They're not
fit,
bad.
perfect to be
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I like even those people who do fit like those idealistic standards, you know, I don't think they should be vilified for that, you know, like
Mhm. Absolutely.
they were lucky, you know, and probably a lot of them too, like they work very hard in the gym. They focus a lot on what they eat so they can maintain that. And I don't think
Yeah.
that's something that's evil, you
And
know.
everybody's like, they all got their own shit like they feel insecure about. Like that's
Oh
one
yeah.
thing. God, like TikTok, I think is like a great example because that's like such a huge platform, and like I love it. Like I'm obsessed. Like I watch videos all the time. I think it's like fun, but like I see the comments. Like I'll scroll through and stuff. Like everybody was like Charlie D'Amelio. Like I feel bad. Like the things people say to other people are like horrible. Like
Especially behind a screen.
yeah. Oh my God. People use like the behind the screen is like such like a platform to like be nasty, which is like disgusting.
So I don't know if you're like at that point in your like maturing coming of age cycle yet, but I recently got a Facebook. and I like, because my mom was like, you should get a Facebook so the family can see what you're up to and blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh,
I did make a
okay.
Facebook.
You did?
I did.
Yeah, I don't know what it's been like for you, but I like never go on it because I just
don't
hate.
understand it. It's so confusing. For
Okay,
one.
I don't understand. Okay, quick rant. I don't understand how like my mom can't figure out X, Y, and Z thing on her phone, but she can figure out how Facebook
Facebook
works.
is confusing because I got it to watch like the Real Bros of Simi Valley, right? Like Cody Go and stuff. Like that's why I got it. And like I was like kind of scrolling through. I was like, dude, this makes no sense.
Dude, it's like Instagram, Twitter,
everything
and
combined.
it's like, and they have like stories, so it's like Snap. It's like all these different platforms in one, and I'm like, you can navigate all of this, but you can't tell me that you don't know how to look at my grades through your phone. Like what? But
Yeah.
you know, I got Facebook, and like I love all my family members. I love everyone. You know, I think people can disagree and still be super close, but like I'll just see some stuff on Facebook, and I'm just like, I'm like, I don't know if it's because you and I were raised in a time and we were told by like the school system and our parents, like, you got to be super careful what you post
yeah.
on
That's like
your
so
social
important.
media. Like, you know, you don't want to post anything too like polarizing or something that can come back like your employer, you know?
Yeah.
Because then I see some things that like my family members or
I see
like,
stuff. I'm like,
or like
dang.
family friends post, and I'm like, ooh, I'm like, that's like,
That's
wow.
a little risky, uh-huh.
I'm like, I don't know, like, not even just because I like might disagree with what it says, just because I'm like, that's like okay.
Yeah, like that's the one thing too. Like I've noticed, like obviously we're coming up on like election, a bunch of like big like race stuff has happened. Like this is just a big time of change.
Yeah.
It's like the things I see certain people post, like whether I agree or not, I'm very big on like that's your belief, this is mine. Like who am I to tell you what to believe and not? Like the stuff I see people post, and then what people say about it, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my
the
god,
comments.
like it's brutal.
I
Like,
think-
damn.
Yeah, and oh God, it's so tough right now
And, like-
because I think people, they're in that mindset where it's like us versus them. And
Absolutely. Oh my god,
and I'm like-
absolutely.
I'm like, you guys realize we're all on the same team here, right?
Yes, and like that's the thing. Like I see, I post stuff like that. I see, like I believe in, like you know what I mean. Like I would have posted it, I didn't, or this and that. Like, and I do it too to show my support and stuff. But like it's hard, and I almost am, like I kind of kick myself sometimes because I'm very careful what I post. Like obviously career wise, like even on Twitter, like I see stuff like I don't like everything because that
Yeah.
could have come back and bite me. Blah blah blah. Just like stuff I post, like I'm like it's gonna make this group extremely happy, but then I'm gonna like people are gonna be like, what the heck, like.
Yeah.
I just like why like everybody, and like I get it, like I don't agree with everything, you know, Nancy thinks, but like who can, like you're all entitled to love who you entitled to love, like kids who like you know what I mean, be friends with whoever you want. So like that's just one thing that still baffles me, that we're still
Oh,
in
yeah.
this time period where like
I think
people
it's
can't agree.
I think it's so funny too that you brought up like, oh, I know it's gonna make this group angry, or I know, or like I know which followers would like respond to this and be like, really, or like those kinds of things. I had an uncle the other day. We were at like this like big family gathering, and my mom was like looked on his phone, and he was on Facebook, and like my friend request was like still pending, and she was like, oh, you haven't accepted Nathaniel's friend request. And me and my uncle, like I love my uncle so dearly, but we disagree on like a lot, you
Yeah.
know, but we're still super close, you know, and I think that's something that should be normalized is
Agree to disagree, yeah.
yeah. And it's like, you know, he and I sit and we talk, you know, and we bring up points and counterpoints, and you know, we secede this and we secede that sometimes, and you know, but we have a conversation, and at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like I still give him a hug, still say I love you, and we
Yeah.
still see each other next week, you know. But he he told my mom, he was like, you know, I love my nephew, and I would never want that to get like jeopardized just over something stupid. And I was like,
that's a good point.
and I was like, you know what? That's really mature. Like
That is
like
extremely mature.
like that's really mature, you know, just to have like the cognitive to be like, all right, you know what, like I know that if I follow him, I might see something that's gonna make me upset,
Yeah.
or he might see something that's gonna make him upset, and I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, like that's one thing too, because I've like been very vocal about where I stand. I'm sure everybody knows where I stand, like politically, socially, like everything, right? And that's like totally fine. I'm open about it. One thing too, like, because people slid up on the stuff I post, and like I've got like in arguments with, because like, but I need to take a step back because I'm like, I don't agree with it, but it's like, it's your opinion. I'm not gonna like. That's
Yeah.
like one thing I like. Even I need to work on, because like I have a couple like of like my guy friends who are on like my school's water polo team. Like I've gotten like disagreements with because they don't like what I said, or like this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I like how you say like that's extreme, like what your uncle did is extremely mature, because that, yeah, I love that. That's like,
Well, you know, it's one of those things. Like, I'm a very, very left person. You know, I am. That's
yeah, me as well.
like, and I'm very open about that. But also, whenever I get into a discussion, because I don't like to call them arguments, because I don't.
Yeah, discussion's a better word to put on that.
Yeah, well, because I don't argue though. Like, when I really think about it, like, I don't. It takes a lot for me to get heated, so it never happens. You know, because whenever I get into a discussion, I always approach from the angle of like to educate or to be educated. You know,
Yeah,
because there
that's
are some things where like, you know, they're gonna bring up a certain point, and you have to be like, yeah,
Yeah,
like, you know,
that's another thing I was gonna mention. It's like, as hard as it is for me to be like, okay, like that's just another thing, just like listening, because there's so many different points. Like some things, like the right side, like I might be like, okay, yeah, like I understand that, I kind of agree with it. You know what I mean? It's just like taking, like like it's a mutual understanding of one another's opinions. You know?
yeah, and I think it'll be much easier for us as a country to find productivity and make progress when, whether you're in camp A or you're in camp B, you understand the opposing side.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, like if I want, you know, X thing to happen and you want Y thing to happen, you know, if I really understand why, and I understand why they think those things, but I'm still like solid in my belief that X should happen. And if people really did that, you know, if people really took the time to educate themselves on not only their own argument, because I feel like there's a lot of people now who, you know, they see a tagline or they see, you know, like a post, or they see something that's like drastically oversimplified, and they're like, this is what I believe, and they don't really get to know. They don't get to know it. They don't get to know the effects of what they
Yeah.
want or what the actual thing is calling for, and then they just think like, okay, well, I want this. They want the other thing, so they must be wrong. But
That's not always how it is. Like, that's going back to what I was saying earlier, like the education. Like, I feel like too, even like if you disagree on a point, like on someone's point, like you want to like, you know, counteract that, like you need to educate yourself on the opposite side and your side, and understand the effects of both actions. Like, because that's not like a valid, you know, point. You know, it's just like, that's so important to educate yourself on like all parties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
well, that's like one of the things I tell people, like especially like younger left or like younger Democrats, is like people like Ben Shapiro, right? Like very right, but very good debaters, very
Yeah.
good. I think that more people who are left leaning should watch those kinds of things, and who should see those things and should have their beliefs challenged a little bit, because they do bring up very good arguments, and not like really BS arguments either, but like legitimate statistics, legitimate facts. And you have to be able to either, one, see how the people counter debate it, so then you can see where your beliefs fall and you can, you know, or two, you know, maybe you can change your opinion, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. You never have to settle on one, like,
And oh yeah,
like point, like you can, that's like the whole thing, like Ben Shapiro, like I've seen a couple of his things, like some of the stuff I see, I'm like, okay, like yeah, it's he's not wrong, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, and that's the one thing, like I don't agree with everything Ben Shapiro says, but I do think he's very good at his job, you know,
he
and
makes extremely like his points like
are very valid.
very valid, and like even like being like the more left side, like even like hearing what he says, like I don't always agree with it, but like the way he, like not always, but sometimes like he articulates it, I'm like, I would listen just because, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And it pushes you to understand your beliefs on a little bit deeper, you know, because if you can see him bring up a factual statistical counter argument to what you're saying,
Yeah.
and if you can think of a reason where it's like yes but or no but, you know, like if you want to get into like something that's like actually happening, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, he's one of those people who's really quick to bring up like black on black crime or like the statistics of like single parenthood in black communities and those kinds of things. And you have to be able to take that and then be like, okay, yes, but there's this institution that
Yeah,
makes it a lot
absolutely.
easier for this to become a repetitive cycle, you know? And if you can't like recognize that right away, maybe you need to learn more about this
Yeah.
thing that you support, you know?
Exactly. And like there's no right or wrong answer. Like you might think A, I might think B, but it's not wrong or right. Like that's the same thing like with what you just mentioned. It's like but yeah, there's no ever like right answer. Like what I believe may not be considered right to you or, you know, whoever, but like that's okay. And I think that's just like another thing, like understanding like what you believe and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, personally for me, I think there are things where it's like objectively we
Morally, yeah.
can't like morally we cannot
There's some
disagree
things
on this.
that you shouldn't disagree on morally, but
Yeah. And it's like
it's hard because not everybody sees it that way. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's like I don't think LGBT rights should be something that can be disagreed on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like I think they should,
Everybody's free to love whoever they love, and I
Right.
think that's something you should
you know,
accept.
I don't think like I use this analogy in the last podcast too, but it's like I think everyone can say like the way that the police system is now needs a little work. And we can
Absolutely.
disagree on what that work looks like. But I
Yeah.
think here's my opinion too. And this is coming from someone like I have family that's police officers, family
Exactly.
that's
I come
ex-military.
from like the same background.
Yeah, you know, and it's like they're not like when the people say all cops are bad, they're saying like the institution itself
Yeah,
puts them
there's
in a
some
bad
sort of-
situation.
This system is clearly
Yeah.
has some sort of issue because if there was an issue, then there wouldn't be all these problems.
Right. And it's like
yeah,
it's not the fact that like, you know, Greg who's a police officer. We're not saying Greg is a terrible, evil, vile human being. We're saying that Greg is working for an institution that puts him in a situation where he's serving something that's evil and vile, you know? And it's like we can disagree on what needs to happen so that institution is better and more just, but we can't disagree on the fact that it's like, okay, this as it's working, too many innocent people are dying or too many people are
Exactly.
being, you know, improperly treated, and certain ethnic groups are being like that even to a more extent.
Exactly. And like the one thing, like the conversations I've had with people, like my friend Morgan, you know Morgan, she and I are very, very similar views. And so like she's one person, like she educates herself on different things I do, so like we learn from each other. But like one thing to like me and her have talked about, like just one thing, like a point I think is important is it's like putting yourself in someone else's shoes, like if you were born in like a very conservative family, not saying like this is every conservative person's beliefs or whatever. Let's say you just born into like a family where, like they weren't accepting of like being gay, like right, or homosexual. Like put yourself in that shoes. Like wouldn't you want to be accepted, right? Like that's what's one thing I try to do. Like every belief I have, it's like put yourself in like someone else's shoes. Like wouldn't you want to be accepted for your beliefs, or like at least someone like tolerant, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's
I just think that's something that's just morally like something everybody should understand.
a practice of empathy and a practice of
Yes.
compassion.
Oh my God. I can't
and-
believe this is like an issue that we're still dealing with. Like it upsets me. Like that's like when Black Lives Matter, like when that movement first started becoming popular again, like back, you know, a couple of months ago, and all those like riots and protests, like it was like so upsetting to watch because I was like, some of this stuff like or arguments wouldn't be happening if people were just like put yourself in someone else's shoes, like the difficulties different parties face. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
just think like an understanding of a different situation makes you so much more empathetic to what's going on. But
Yeah. And that's like the same thing, kind of like to tie it back into the environment, you know? It's like you have to be able to think about more than just yourself, you know?
yeah,
And that's
the
like,
world is bigger than just you.
right. And I think, you know, it's not even like us here in the States, you know, because when we talk about climate change, we're talking about something globally.
Global, yeah, it's
You know-
not just here.
You know, there was a country, oh, I feel so guilty for forgetting the country. It's on the Nile River, and it contributes like less than 0.1% of the yearly carbon emissions of the world. And the Nile, you know, because the glaciers are melting and sea levels are rising,
Yeah.
like flooded
Oh my
like a
gosh.
bunch of the major cities.
That's terrible.
So you're seeing, you know, a country, a community that contributes, you know,
Barely anything.
literally nothing
Mhm.
to global warming being affected by the effects of global warming of bigger countries. And I'm not here saying United States is the worst. You know, like, you know, carbon emissions in China are way worse than they are here. And I'm not of the hubris of saying like, oh, you know, America's got the worst carbon emissions and we need to, you know, that's not the case. But I think as a leader, as a global leader, you know, I think we should be taking more steps because it's not just us. It's
Yeah.
not just the fact that we want to preserve our beaches or our national parks or, you know, our communities and the air quality of those communities. We have to make sure that these smaller nations that can't, you know, they don't have the money to rebuild if everything floods.
And like it almost seems like unfair, right? Like that happened, whatever. I'm not sure whatever, like that country, like that.
I think it was
whatever.
Bahrain, but I'm not sure.
Well, okay, but let's say it's Bahrain. Like imagine like that just seems unfair, right? It's like our own shit. Like everything affects everything. Those steps and stuff are like so crucial to like positive change, because this is like a global thing. Everybody's gonna deal with the climate change. I think like a big part of it starts from humans and like the toll like the environment takes. Like that's what I believe.
Hmm.
So it's like it starts with us. Like everything affects everything. Like your actions affect your future, right? So it's like what you do is gonna affect other people.
So do you think, so I guess my next question would be like, do you trust humans enough to like, you think like we could reverse global warming? Like, do you think if we really, like, do you think that if it came out tomorrow and it was like, guys, everyone needs to start doing the most to help with this or world's over in like 10 years, do you think we'd be able to pull through?
No.
No?
I know that's so sad. No, I don't. I feel like everybody's got their own shit, their own beliefs, right? So it's like if you like people don't believe that climate change is real. So it's like if that's like what's going on, they'd be like, this isn't real, this isn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Then they might not want to take those steps. And like I understand that, respect that. You do you, but like I don't have the faith in humanity that would happen. No.
I have to be completely honest. I think before COVID, I think I might have answered that question like, oh yeah, like I think if there was, you know, like if there was a clear outline to people, like if you know, if you start recycling, you start doing, you know, if you start composting, we'll all be able to live a little bit longer. I think before COVID, I might have been like, yeah, I believe in humanity. But then they're literally like, please wear this paper cloth over your face when you go out in public so people don't die.
Yeah, people can't manage.
And then people are like, no. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I don't have the biggest faith. So like,
Yeah. I know that's like totally sad that I don't like God, like my heart totally wish like internally like my heart part of me is like please like we can all do this, but like logically no. And that's just like too it's like reefs, like one thing like sunscreen that has like certain ingredients like damage the reefs, like it's as simple as maybe paying $2 extra, maybe people like, but there's totally options that don't have like that little thing, like that little change to help the environment or do this and that. Like people aren't even willing to do that. So it's like
the plastic straws thing.
gosh, yes.
You know, it's like it's something so small.
Sip
like-
out of your cup.
Like sip
Gosh.
out of your cup. And
Yeah.
it's so funny
Paper
because
straw, metal straw. Like, there's so many alternatives. And
So-
it's like
I don't know. I'm assuming everyone listening to this will be from California, but if you're not, in California, you have to ask for straws. Like people don't just give them to you, and like if you order Starbucks, their cups now are like different so that you can like sip out of it. You don't get a straw, and that's so funny to me because I never like straws really. Like
yeah,
I just
I prefer like maybe a certain drink. I don't care if I drink out of my cup. It really doesn't.
yeah.
bother
See,
me.
so like for me, like when they like made straws, you know, like I guess optional because you can still get them. I was like so unfazed because I had never used straws
Yeah.
to begin with.
And like one thing too, like when I saw Starbucks came out with those cups that you don't need a straw, I thought they were cuter. But like too, like yeah, like that is so smart and like innovative. And it's like they're giving you options to help make positive change. Like be a part of that. Like owning a metal straw, or just get rid of straws all like cute. Like you ever seen those pictures like the turtles? Like how heartbreaking, right? That a turtle had like a straw stuck in its nose, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like just like keep that in the back of your mind or something. If like that's what it takes to get you to motivate you to do something about this or that, right?
It's you know, and I'm split with the plastic straw thing because even though I think
Yeah,
it's like
I understand
it's
both
like
parties.
it's like a good talking point for people to be like, oh, look at this, like this thing that contributes to plastic that you can live without. But also, like, when you look at the actual statistics, like plastic straws contribute so little.
Yeah,
you know?
the plastic, like the amount it affects the environment is not.
Yeah.
It's not the plastic that is doing the biggest amount of
Yeah,
damage.
exactly. And I used to be like, well, I wonder, you know, like how much of this environmental policy that's passed is just like that, you know, where it's like more for show than it is for like
Actually, like,
actual effects.
Impacts, yeah.
I'm like, because before I started working where I work now, I was like 10 cents for a bag. Like, people are just gonna buy a bag. Like, you know, like it's 10 cents. Or like at the most, like, who needs $1 worth of bags? And if you need $1 worth of bags, it's $1 for 10 bags. You know, and I used to believe like that's gotta stop no one. And let me tell you, after working at like a department store for the past 4 months, like it still surprises me. Like people will say like, "Oh no, it's fine," you know.
Or even bring in like their own reusable bags.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of like stifled by COVID by a bit because there was a lot of points where
that's
a lot of
right.
companies weren't letting you bring in bags.
Yeah, they
But-
were giving them out.
Yeah, but they were giving them out for free too. But now a lot of places, including where I work, will let you bring in your bags again.
Yeah, they do.
And so many people do. You know, even if they're just reusing the plastic bags
Yeah, that's what
that
like,
they used before.
every now and then I forget because I try to use the reusable bags. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's also just more convenient. You know what I mean? But because usually they're a little bit bigger. That's one thing too. Like if I forget a bag, then like reusable bag. It's just like there's so many alternatives to like not even just plastic, like different things in life. Very
Oh.
many alternatives to a better impact, I guess.
Oh yeah. Like one of the things I wish we had more in the States. I mean, I guess New York's got a pretty decent handle on it, but like at least here in California was like public transport. Like I wish like there was just a better system because I mean I've taken the MetroLink. I feel like a lot
a
of
few
people.
times, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
I feel
not
like-
terrible.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of like especially like kids in the Inland Empire have used the MetroLink before
At
to
least
get to
once,
the beach, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Or like to get to LA because you know.
Yeah, whenever I go to LA, I would take the metro.
Exactly, that's how I was too, and it's like it's not bad, but I do wish it was like a little bit better.
Oh, like personally, like me, like I wouldn't want to travel on it by myself. Like,
Oh yeah.
it would freak me out.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's like obviously that like there's a little bit of a gender difference thing
Yeah,
or like
absolutely.
a size difference thing, you know, because
Yeah, you know, 120
I mean-
pounds ain't gonna do much to someone who's like
exactly
20 pounds.
versus like a 200-pound 6-foot
Yeah,
guy, you know, so it's like
exactly.
there's a difference, like the whole like running at night thing too, like because like that's usually when I run is at night,
Yeah,
and
oh
all my
yeah, it's
friends-
cooler and stuff.
and all my like female friends will always be like, yeah, I really wish I could do that, and I'm like,
And I
that's
think
so
that is
sad.
oh my gosh, absolutely like so sad. Me and my friends talk about this all the time. Obviously, like some people don't agree with this, but it doesn't matter. But like as like females, like I walk to my car and stuff, I'm nervous. Like there's things about not even saying this is all true, but like things about like the honey on top of your car, like even the movie theater down right by our house saying like there was guys like grabbing girls and stuff like that's like scary to me. Like that's just something men and women should not have to worry about, like your own safety, like going to your car. Like I check my back door real quick, and I hop in real quick and lock the door. Like that's just something like we shouldn't have to worry about. But
Yeah, and that's like
yeah,
that's so like sad, and it's sad because like as much as I can hear it, as much as I can hear it from many different girls, it's like I'll never know that,
yeah.
you know, like
It's
I'll
that
never.
I understand, I'll never understand thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I understand, like I'll never understand, and it's so weird too because. I mean, there's certain things where it's like, okay, like I haven't had that exact situation, but I can
And
get
it
it.
could like this, like
You know, and it's like
thing.
like you know, like the whole concept of like mansplaining, where it's like you're in like a more like professional environment, or you're in, you know, any kind of environment, and like a man, like man like steps over to explain it to you because like you're a woman. It's like, I've never had that exact situation, but
Yeah,
I've definitely
and, like,
had
all
people.
this stuff isn't like apparent, like, and even to like walking, like, it could happen to men too. Like, it's not.
Yeah, and that's
just,
what I was
it's
about
not,
to say.
I don't think all of this is limited to one gender. For sure, there's way more attention on like it happening to women. Like, there's just a little bit more statistic that has happened to like females, but it's not limited to just
Oh yeah.
men too.
Well, it's like what I was telling you earlier today, was sitting through those like sexual assault and like sexual harassment presentations.
Yeah.
And I actually really, one thing I did appreciate about it is that a couple of the different scenarios were gauged where like the man was the victim. And I don't, I think men's
Yeah.
mental health is becoming more of
Popular.
like
and I think
more
that's
something
so
than,
good.
yeah.
Everybody, like, all genders, like, your mental health should be important, like, just something that should be valued. And I think that's true, like, sexual assault is something, like, females have always been educated on, like, it's been known about that, right? But I think, like, men can be, like, sexually assaulted, too. Like, it's not something that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
and-
think it's good that, like, there's more recognition on that, because that is something that should be talked about as well.
Yeah, and I think it's and I feel like it's a really interesting thing too, because when I say, I think men's mental health should be something that's more talked about and more focused on. I'm not saying that like women's mental health
Yeah,
shouldn't be.
you're not taking away
Yeah,
from that
yeah,
at
I'm not
all.
taking
No, I
away from
completely
that.
understand.
But it's like, from my personal experience, I think when you're talking about the men's mental health narrative, I'm so proud because I think the biggest supporters of that are other men.
Yeah.
It's like when I think of like men and like like guys going through really rough times mentally, psychologically, I think I see a lot of support from other guys.
And I think there's too been like always like an Empyrean stereotype, like women cry, like men like keep it inside, like watch
Yeah.
it. Like, dude, like it's okay if you want to cry, like cry
Yeah.
it out. Like, dude, I cry every week. Like,
100%.
go ahead.
And I think, yeah, and I just like I'm just so proud that.
It's something
You
that
know,
should be normalized.
Yeah, it should be normalized, one, but also like you kind of grow up with this idea where it's like, if I'm gonna cry, I guess as a guy, like I'm gonna cry to like my mom, I'm gonna cry to like my sister or my cousin who's a girl. Like I'm gonna, like if I let my guard down and I break that like kind of gender stereotype, it's gonna be with a woman.
Yeah, not
You know,
someone
it's-
who's
it's
of
not
a more
gonna- it's
masculine
not gonna be-
presence. Uh-huh.
With like my best friend who's a guy. It's not gonna be with like my brother. It's not gonna be with those kinds of people because like I don't want them to see me be weak and to see like other guys like lift up other guys.
Yeah, that's
It's like-
empowering.
Yeah, it's like it's really empowering and like I say all this like I'm not trying to say like go on like good on the patriarchy for keeping guys going strong, but I do think that there's a lot of people out there who want to be like mental health advocates, but then they'll like I'll see them retweet stuff and it's like all that men are good for is going to war or like
Yeah,
those
I
kinds
feel
of things.
that's
And
terrible.
I'm like you realize that like you're reinforcing that like yeah, I get it, it's like a joke, it's funny because like haha, like toxic masculinity is a thing, but that's also like reinforcing those toxic.
Yeah, you're not
things,
helping the problem.
Yeah, it's like when you see that,
Be part of the solution.
yeah, be part of the solution, and
Everybody's affected by their own shit, like personal, like mental, like everybody's got it, like their own, like everybody goes through it. So it's not, it's not restricted to one group, which is something people still are obviously learning.
Well, I mean, suicide rate in men is like 3 times higher than it is in women.
Yeah.
And I think, I saw this really, it's kind of sad, but it was kind of funny too. It was a TikTok about like how men are like brought up, where it's like men are supposed to feel like they need to provide and like they
Yeah.
need to be like strong
It's
and
like
they
the
can't.
stereotype.
And
kind
yeah,
of,
it's like
uh-huh.
that. It's like when you follow the stereotype to its natural conclusion, right? So like when you go through like men should be, not emotional. They should provide. They should, constantly be pushing for like a better life for their family. It's like if you follow that to its natural conclusion, it's going to lead, an individual to a really dark place, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like when
I think there's no place to tell someone to suppress your own emotion. Because,
right.
like, I think this is just apparent. Like, you have to let it out sometimes. Like, you have to,
Oh
like,
yeah.
cry it out, scream, do what you have to do. Like, there shouldn't be restrictions on suppressing some sort of feeling,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
I think more people should be completely fine with being transparent.
Yeah.
You know, like
It's uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
like imagine like you know like when you're upset like and you just cry about it or like you write it down and you're like, don't you feel good, right? Like it's
yeah.
out, right?
Well, one thing I think journaling is like, why is it so underutilized by people
Oh my
our
god,
age?
it's amazing.
Yeah, like I started journaling, and it started as just me writing like 5 things every day that I was thankful for.
Good
And
for
then it
you.
was like-
Aw.
It was like, okay, I'm gonna write 5 things I'm thankful for, but I'm gonna write a couple things that are bothering me too. And it's like, it's okay to
Yeah.
admit that things are bothering you. You know, because like you said, everyone's growing in quarantine. You know, personally for me, like I always kind of knew Christianity wasn't my vibe, so I've like
Mhm.
moved more into like a neo-Buddhist mindset about it.
Yeah.
And having that understanding that, you know, emotions objectively aren't bad.
Oh my god, no. And I think too, like, I started, like, I've always journaled a little bit, like, nothing consistent, but just enough, like, I need it. Like, pages are filled with how I feel. I'm like, whoa. And I started doing that at the beginning of COVID. And, like, seeing the personal change, I think is great. Like, just talk about it. Like, growing up and stuff, like, I had to go see a counselor and stuff because I needed help. So it's like, those resources are there. Like, totally use them. Like, they're so important to have. They're there for a reason, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and you know, it's like I said, you know, the whole an emotion objectively isn't bad. We're supposed to experience it all.
It wouldn't. Yeah,
Like,
we
yeah.
wouldn't experience it if we didn't need it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
one of
it's
those
like
things.
it's like happiness is like happiness. It feels good. You know, like
Yeah.
excitement feels good.
the serotonin.
Like the
stuff like that.
serotonin, the
Uh-huh.
endorphins, it feels good, and that's why you want to classify it as better than sadness. You know, but it's like the analogy I always make is like certain things are gonna make you happy, certain things are gonna make you sad, and it's better that they do. You know,
Yeah.
like it would be, how strange would it be if people dying made you happy instead of sad? People would look at that and go, hey, that's not right.
And yeah.
You know, and it's
Mhm.
like, so when you're feeling these negative things, when you're feeling bad, when you're feeling, you know, stressed or anxious, it's not about trying not to feel it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to like feel like you need to suppress that emotion. I think sometimes it's almost like good to let yourself experience it. Like my friend Morgan, like last year she made a film and it was like about heartbreak and love and stuff, right? And she was like, what do you love most about life? And this, I think, not even just me, I'm sure many people can agree, was like life, because it's like the most beautiful, messy thing to experience.
Mhm.
And like there's so many different things you feel. Like it's good to feel sad sometimes. Like, yeah, I don't want to feel sad, but like it's good to just experience, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Oh no, it's like those moments where you're in like a really dark place, those shape you just as much, if not
Absolutely. I think
more,
more.
than those moments that make you super happy. You know, it's like you gotta love it.
Makes you stronger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kelly Clarkson, she knew what she was
She knew
talking
she
about.
did.
But, you know, it's not about trying to get rid of it, you know, because it's what makes us human. It's what makes this
Yeah.
life so interesting.
That's like one thing too, like I look at, like I like not everybody, obviously everyone's open to their own religious beliefs. I believe in God, so it's like to me it's like if it weren't necessary or like if it shouldn't be around, like it wouldn't be here, right? Like
Mhm.
the idea of like to like believe what you want like about the devil and stuff, but like temptation wouldn't be a thing if like it wasn't necessary. Like we're human, da da da. Like that's the same thing with like people like being gay is bad. Well, I think like if it was bad to be like that's just something that wouldn't be around. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all these different things are apparent for a reason.
People drink, people get tattoos, people...
Yeah, it's fun. Like you know what I mean? You
like
do you.
things happen, and I don't know. I think as COVID is hit, because I feel like COVID has like rapidly expedited me becoming mature.
Same here.
You know,
I
'cause-
totally feel that.
Well, that, and then like also you haven't experienced it yet, but I feel like when you get out of high school, there's like a whole wave of reality that just like smacks you in the
I can
face,
imagine. Yeah.
because you're like, okay,
You're kind of like this. I feel like it'll be like the sense like you're kind of on your own. Almost.
oh, it's just like you just now.
it's a big.
now
It's a
you
really
can do,
big life step.
Yeah, you can do whatever now. Like
Yeah.
like you don't have to go to school. You don't have to get a job.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Life's in your hands. kind
Yeah,
of thing.
so
Uh-huh.
those two things combined have really opened my eyes to the fact that everything that you experience, no matter how good, how bad, like your expectations could have been through the roof for something and you could have gotten the basement, you know? And it happens and it happened for a reason.
Yeah.
Now
Oh,
just now
everything
just go.
happens for a reason. I'm a huge believer in fate. Like,
Mhm.
I just think, like, if something weren't to happen, it wouldn't. Today I was in AHB, my teacher was like, something you would do over. And I was like, I couldn't think of anything. I'm like, shit, like, I obviously have moments where, like, damn, I should have done that. And I put, like, my CIF game. Like, yeah, honestly, it's kind of a BS answer. I was like, and I wrote in there, I was like, I feel like everything is supposed to happen for a reason, even if it was bad. Like, it was meant to happen. Like, I wouldn't do things over. Like,
Yeah. See, and like your perspective is more like you it was gonna happen, like it was bound to happen.
yeah,
My
you look
whole-
at it as, like, it's inevitable.
Yeah, and my whole thing is like you can't change it. So what's the point of focusing on it?
Yeah.
Like I tell one of my good friends all the time, you know, he made some like really poor decisions early on in his life and he got some help and he's in a much better place now. But he'll sometimes open up to me and just be like, "Hey, you know, like, you know, sometimes it's just hard for me to not think about what could have been." And the other day I was just trying to explain to him, you know, like it doesn't like I understand.
Yeah, I get what
like
you're
I get
saying,
what
too.
you're saying,
Uh-huh.
but also like you can't fix it. Like you can't go back and change it.
Yeah.
So all you can do is try to make
Move
what
forward.
is like,
Mhm.
you know, if you are saying like, hey, you know, this could have been my life, you know, and your life maybe can't look exactly like that now, but it can sure look something similar.
Yeah, it's in your course to change that. Like,
Yeah.
I think everything happens for a reason, but I also too like things like you go left instead of right. Like that's like the path you go, like of course will affect things. It's just like it all relates to you.
Yeah.
Like your own personal life
And you,
path.
I mean, there's a variation of that, you know, like there's
Yeah.
some things where
I
it's
think
like,
it's an extremely complex topic because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so many different ways you can look at it.
oh yeah, you know, because there are some things where it was like, you know, instead of turning all the way left, I just turned slightly left, and but, you know, so I can still go all the way left, or I can even go back to the right. You know, it's, you know, you can change, but there are some things where it's like, nah, like that door is closed,
Yeah,
and I think when those like when you
the door is shut
focus,
for a reason.
yeah, and I think when people really start transfixing on shut doors, they're forgetting about what's going on.
Yeah,
Around
you
them.
are so tunnel vision on something that it's not gonna be.
Like, you know, it's like that whole expression, one door closes, another opens.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like especially in this time, you know, so many doors are open.
That is so 100%
Like, you can
true.
do so much now. Like between the internet and just the fact that people can find any way to make money now.
There's so many different resources to like you could open that own door for you, like you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like,
For yourself.
you know, you never really know, like, especially I feel like 2020 has really showed me like reality as you think it should be doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like the world and culture and society is just gonna be whatever it is, and it does not care what you think. Like,
Yeah.
even if you think about like our situation in high school, right? Like we're supposed to have the whole like, you know, well at least because I lost the end of mine, and
Yeah.
you're currently losing the beginning of yours.
Uh-huh.
But you know, senior year, like it's supposed to be like this.
Fun.
Yeah, it's like this fun, you know, like really
Last
crazy
hurrah.
transition, because it's kind of like, hey, you know, that last 2 month period is like, hey, you know, the real world's about to be like right on the doorstep.
It's scary.
Yeah, and it's like I can personally say not having that, you know, traditional setting where it was like, okay, like, you know, we crossed the finish line, you know, time to go through the motions of moving out to college or, you know, doing all that. It's like
Yeah.
that definitely makes my perception of the coming of age sequence a little bit different, you know? Because I had friends, I mean, not super close friends, but I knew people who, like, our junior year tested out, got their GED, went to community college, and, like, they just became adult, like, a year early, you know? Just because they were like, I'm done with high school.
Yeah. Like that I understand, like being done with high school. I'm scared because I think it's scary. Like that's like such a big chapter of your life, and I never understood like how like real coming of age was. Like that
Yeah.
like I learned that so much, and like I still have a lot of maturing to do, but I didn't like it is so real. Like I'm still like trying to understand it, and I probably never will, but
It's huge. Like, it's a legit thing.
Now, do you know what you want to do, like, career-wise yet?
Yeah.
What
I
do you
want to be a
wanna-
nurse.
A nurse.
See, like, that's my thing. Like, that's my plan, right? Like, I'm so, like, I used to want to be a Hannah Montana. I used to want to be a doctor. Like, I want to do so many different things. But nursing is definitely my field. I think, well, just helping people, doing, like, serving others will be 100% where I end up. But nursing is the path I'm planning on taking.
Right.
And probably become a, like, I'll go back to school, be a nurse practitioner later on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's currently my plan, yes.
There's a lot of safety in the medical field. It's a good field to be
Yeah.
in.
And that's my thing, like, because I'm like, whatever I end up doing, like, that's one thing I love, like, it's very secure. Like, I know I'll be financially stable, but, like,
They're always hiring.
yeah, absolutely. Like, it's totally good. But I think, like, whatever I end up doing, whether it be nursing or not, like, I just, like, preach that, like, do what makes you happy. Like, if you're making fucking $5 an hour, then you're making $5 an hour, but, like, do you love it? And if you do, like, you're really not gonna care.
Yeah.
I think that is, like, it's, like, your life. It's your power, like,
Oh,
do
yeah.
what you want. I don't know. Money isn't everything.
Have you heard, it was like Jim Carrey was giving a commencement
Yeah,
address?
I watched that.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
like...
It was, like, that's why it totally resonated with me.
Yeah, it
that.
resonated with me too. So for those who haven't heard it, he said, you can fail doing the safe option. So why not fail doing the option that you'll love?
Yeah.
And that, to me, was just like... Yes.
Yeah, and, like, God, if, like, you fail, like, yeah, it totally sucks. But, like, did you feel like doing something that was, like, totally awesome? Like, you gained this awesome experience? Like, hell yeah, you did. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And that's why this, like, life is worth taking risks. So, like, do it.
Yeah, and I would even go a step further and say, like, life is worth pursuing passions, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, and that's something that, you know, because going through high school, I felt like I checked all of, like, those, like, really well-known, like, boxes.
football game, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
like, well, no, just, like, resume boxes, you know, where I was like, my college application
Oh, yeah,
is
you
gonna...
did certain things.
it's gonna be the
Literally me
shiniest.
too. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm like...
I did this, and this. I'm like, I'm a college's, like, dream. Okay?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was like, you know, I was the president of the clubs. I was the captain of the teams. I was, you know, the blank rank of the blank, you know, and it was, I did all the things, and then I didn't get the results that I had hoped for. Super thankful to be going where I am. I'm super
Yeah.
excited.
I remember when this whole thing happened to you, I totally felt for you, but I already knew. I don't know if I told you this or not, but, like, when we talked about it, I remember it happening. I remember you were so sad. But I was like, dude, like, this is, like, I knew it was going to work out for you because that was, like, you weren't supposed to go there.
Yeah. And I think, but that experience really opened my eyes where I was like, I was doing these things,
Totally.
and some of them I didn't even really like that much.
It's more for,
You know,
it's someone else's.
Yeah, I was doing it because,
yeah.
you know, the school system or a counselor or, you know, something had told me like, hey, you know, colleges really want to see this. And, you know, I'm going into college now and they're like, you know, employers really want, or grad schools really want to see
They want
this.
this or that, but
And
yeah.
in the back of my head, I'm like, you know, I listened to this last time. I listened to all this. I did all this last time. So now my whole mindset is I'm just going to do the things that I'm excited to do. You know, like I'm one of the things that I'm hoping that I get into that I just applied for is like the UCLA radio station.
Oh
you
my
know?
god, that'd be so
It's like-
sick.
You know, I want to go to graduate school for economics, or I want to work for like a banking firm. You know, like that's my current career path. Being on a radio station isn't going to help me with that.
Yeah,
but
but is it like something you
It's
totally
something
enjoy?
yeah, I'd be so
Yeah,
excited.
do
Like
it.
I love music. I think I have great music
Yes,
taste.
you do.
Like, and you know, if I had a talk show, that'd be epic. You know,
Yeah.
I don't care if it was
Like even like this, I told you like starting this, like oh my god, like if this turned into something huge, like how sick. But like then we like we said last night, like if it doesn't, like you have this like awesome little piece of you like there forever, which is like so cool, right?
yeah, and that's like yeah, like we were talking last night. Like, this is something where I'm not going into it with a ton of expectations, or
Which
like,
yeah.
or it's like I'm not trying to make this like my career. I'm not trying to, you know, it's like I don't have these like idealistic visions of it. I'm just super excited about it.
Yeah.
And I think
it's something you're passionate about.
and I think that people should do more things for those reasons, you know, and I think a lot of people are losing sight of that a lot. It's like, you know, I'm gonna be a part of this or that, or I'm gonna be an artist, or I'm gonna do these things, and I really want it because I want the career of it, you know? And it's like, you got to understand that you can put in all the right effort, you can do all the right things, but a lot of the day, or at the end of the day, it's a lot of luck,
Yeah.
you know?
And like
if you're not loving it, if you're not excited about doing it before you even,
yeah. You need to come into something with the headspace of being excited about, like, yeah, having high expectations is awesome, but, like, obviously everyone has an instance, like, if you have high expectations and, like, what you have for that, like, it doesn't go to like, fuck, like, that sucks. But it's, like, if you go into, like, I'm excited, like, take what you out of this experience, good or bad, like, yeah, you learn and take way more from it, or, like, keep going with it, you know?
mhm,
I just think that's just, like, a mindset that I think is crucial.
yeah. And I think, you know, like you said, it'll be like a little piece of me. And I think that would just be something so cool to have, you know,
Oh,
where I'm
yeah.
like we were talking about like last night, like my kids, you know, like I'll be able to
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah, you guys want to know what I was like as a 17-year-old kid?
Yeah,
Like,
because I think you're like so wise, like for your year, like which I think is awesome. Like I told you yesterday, I have these like embarrassing, like terrible YouTube videos, like horrible, right? But I was like, I'm never gonna delete these. Like my kids might want to see it. Like it didn't turn into anything. Like I just loved it because it was so much fun for me. Like I vlogged my entire trip to Hawaii, right? Like my parents were so annoyed when I was doing it, but like I look back, I'm like, y'all thank me for this because like we had this memory and I captured everything, you know. Like I think that's so like fun.
yeah, I think that is one of the really beautiful things though about like social media. Like
You can
we
capture.
love to talk about like, you know, all of its negative effects, and there are negative effects, really legitimate
sure, yeah.
negative effects. But the fact that I'm gonna have pictures on my Instagram from when I was an eighth grader going to New York City, and I'm gonna be able to show my kids and be like, look, like
Look at me, yeah.
look at me, look how young and excited I was. And I'll be like 40 and I'll be like, I wasn't always this beat down, gray haired old man that you guys see before you. I had life in me once.
Yeah, exactly. Like social media totally has its downsides, but like it's beautiful that we're living in this time where we can capture
Yeah.
pieces of our life.
Or like Snapchat memories.
Oh my
Like-
god,
like
I absolutely
sometimes-
love it.
Like sometimes I get some and I'm like, ooh, that was kind of painful, because it'll be like something that was like,
yeah, but it's like it sucks, but I like that it's almost a reminder of like that shitty experience you might have had. You're like, well, look at me now, dude. Like,
right?
yeah.
Or like it's even sometimes a nice, like, you know, good things come to an end, and I think sometimes this is a nice
Yeah.
reminder just to be like,
Like,
oh,
aw,
like to be able to look back
exactly.
on it fondly. You're like, oh, that's so cool. Or like I
Yeah.
love the ones that I'll get occasionally for like water polo stuff, because like,
Oh my god, me too.
you know, that chapter for me is like closed, you know, but it's like it was such a fun and good part of my life.
Yeah, like my memories pop up and I have like friends. I'm still friends with like boyfriends that aren't my boyfriend anymore. Like I'm like, oh, that's sad. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, like God,
Yeah.
like I don't know what I would have done if I had never met these people or like
Yeah.
experienced that.
Like I get like sometimes I'll just be surprised because I'll get like this random hilarious video of like some person from the like I was playing water polo with doing something stupid. Like I can't tell you how many times memories of your brother have popped up in my Snapchat.
Many.
But like it's just sometimes it's such a nice reminder, you know. Or my mom, you know, because I guess Facebook does something similar to
Every
memories.
6 years,
Yeah,
it
and,
does
like,
those.
You know, my best friends, we've been best friends ever since we were like 4.
The
You know,
two
the
brothers,
two
right?
twins, yeah. Like, and so like our moms will send us these pictures of us from like,
God, like, isn't it
grade
great?
school, and it's like so crazy. Like it's so
And it's also
crazy.
great because you see like, damn, like dude, look how far I've come. Like it's
Yeah.
awesome. I think it's like another good thing. Like just it's mentally like keeps you motivated. Like I was down the dump center, I was doing great. Then like great, if I was doing great, keep that like mentality going, like that flow going. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I think it's like a super unique thing with my friends too, because like the three of us, like we've had like ups and downs in our
Of course,
friendships,
yeah.
like not really fights, just like, you know, like sometimes one of us was like more involved in like something, so we weren't really hanging out with,
yeah,
you know, each other as much, or
yeah. But you
you-
guys have been friends for like all the years.
Yeah, and
all
it's
the years
like-
above it all. Yeah, it's crazy.
and it's like I always point to like our sophomore year was a year that we like all really kind of like disconnected a little bit, because they kind of went full force into the theater aspect of high school, and I was like really focusing on water polo. But then we'd hang out like every now and then, and it was like nothing ever happened.
God, like those are the best.
But those are the
friendships.
best friendships.
Dude,
Yes.
right? Like you know, one of my best friends, Grace. Like she goes to school in Tulane right now. We don't like even still, like when she wasn't away in Louisiana, like we didn't have to talk for like a whole month. I'd see her and I'd be like, hi. And I had just the best time with her because we don't have to talk every day to be best friends. Like, because she's one of my ride or die people, like, for life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like, I think those are, like, the friendships, like, cherish all your friendships. But, like, those people and, like, those relationships are the absolute best because it's nothing ever changed. Like, that's
Yeah.
valuable. Like,
Yeah, and I think those are
awesome.
those are the friendships that are gonna be the best when you're an adult too.
Yeah, because
'Cause-
you don't have to see him for 30 years. Bro, what's up? Like, yeah.
Well, not even like I mean that's a great extreme, but you know when you're an adult, like even pre having kids, like you have a job, you gotta
Yeah.
cook, you gotta clean, you gotta make sure your bills get paid, like you gotta be doing all these things, like you're not gonna be able to see your friends as
Yeah, those
often as you
friendships
want.
are great.
You know,
yeah.
so like those friendships that can be sustained even when there's a little bit of gap, like those are the really important ones. Those are the ones you gotta hang on to.
Yeah, because those also, I think, are show, like, the type of person they are. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't, like, shit happens, you do your own thing, like, but you always got each other's back. Like, that's why I love, like, Grace is just my best example because it's, like, we don't talk every day. Like, I could be like, dude, I need you, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the type of friendships that they are.
Yeah, and those are the bonds that you should go out making.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
And keep, 100%.
yeah, because even like to take that, like we're talking about friendship right now, but even when you talk about like relationships, it's like I don't know about you personally, but like I couldn't be in a relationship where I had to like text a person like every day. You know, it's like
yeah, I'm not like that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, like, from any person, I don't need attention 24/7 to be happy.
yeah.
So I think, like, to, like,
Well, just for me, like I would need
Same.
space. You know, it's
Gosh,
like
I'd go insane talking to you 20. I don't need attention all the time.
well, like not even that. It's like you
Well,
know,
you're your
we're
own
both
yeah.
well, we're both very busy people. It's like,
So,
dude,
I
I don't
think-
want to feel obligated to have to like
Be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like. I think that should just. Everybody's their own person in a relationship, but I think that's like so key. Like, space is so important. Like having someone like. I think it's great to like if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend like text throughout the day, maybe like a little, but like it's just like that apparent like communication. Yeah, it's important, but like. If you're strong enough in a relationship like that, like you can come to each other at the end of the day, talk like it's are you getting what I'm saying?
yeah, I get what you're saying.
I don't know.
Well, one thing I wish our generation did more was like I wish we called each other.
Oh
more.
my god, me too. Like to me, like that's like romantic. Like, hi.
Yeah. Well, like even friends. Like I got friends who like they don't even text; they just call you, and it's like I love it because for me, if we texted for 2 hours, cool. If we were on the phone for like 20 minutes,
Even better, yeah.
even better, like worlds better. You know?
Exactly, yeah. And I think too, like that's one thing with social media that's huge. It's like you perceive something way differently than it might have meant to.
Oh, especially through text.
Absolutely. Like, so I might be like, okay, cool. So I might be like, okay, cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but you
Yeah.
can be talking, like, you understand that.
Yeah.
And, like, even not even FaceTime, like, I'm fine just talking to you, like, you're on the phone. Like, that is,
Yeah.
like, I almost prefer that, to be completely honest.
I prefer that more than FaceTime because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, one, I don't really like looking at myself, and two, it's like
Same.
for me, I think it will always get like really choppy or like
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm just
And
like,
I
let's just
think
talk on the phone.
It just goes back to, like, look at, like, this is, like, dealing with relationships. Like, look at, like, back when, like, our grandparents or parents were kids, like, no, you weren't texting on Snapchat. Like, you would wait till you see them. And, like, I just think that, like, made people value relationships so much more because
Mm-hmm.
it's, like, the time you spent with them is so, like,
It definitely slowed it down a little bit more too.
absolutely.
You
Because,
know.
like, like, hookup culture, like, all these different things are, like, very apparent and, like, especially, like, more millennial, like, Gen Z relationships.
Mhm.
I guess Gen Z might make a little bit more, like, to what we discussed, but, like, yeah, like,
Yeah, but then again, those are the things where it's like I wish, like I was calling more, but then I notice like I'm not actively
yeah, it's
calling.
it's, like, that's, like, the hardest thing I think, too. It's like New Year's resolutions, like, I'm gonna do this, do that, like, it's a matter of, like, will you actually do it? And,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, God. Well, thank you so much for talking
Yes,
with me
thank
today.
you, sorry, I know I ramble a lot.
Oh, no, you're totally fine. Thank you for sharing your perspective on so many insightful topics. I really
Yes.
appreciated talking and seeing you again.
I know, I love you, Nate, this is so fun.
I know. I love you too. It's been good talking. All right. Well, anyone who's interested, go follow Ella on Instagram. Do you want to shout out your TikTok too?
I want to shout out the TikTok, but Ella Dover. If you want to follow the gram.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you have a great day.